Good evening and welcome to tonight's webinar hosted by the University of Illinois Alumni Association. I'm Robin Kaler. I'm the Chief of Staff for Chancellor Charles Isbell, and I'm Vice Chancellor for Administrative Strategy at the University of Illinois. I'll be your moderator this evening, and before I introduce our guest for tonight, I'm going to take just a minute to go over a few housekeeping items. Let's see here. If you have a question for Chancellor Isbell, that's really going to be the most important thing we do today, right? Please use the Q&A function on your Zoom screen to submit it. If you've spent a lot of time on Zoom, we're asking you to use the Q&A function, not the chat, to submit questions so we can make sure we're seeing them all. We'll try to get through as many as we can in our time together. I'm going to apologize in advance if I miss any of them. We will have a recording up later on, and that's going to be amazing. I would like to thank the University of Illinois Alumni Association for hosting this event, and to all of you who took the time to tune in, and for everybody behind the scenes who's helping us get together this evening. So it should be a lot of fun. I would like to tell you a couple of other things before we move forward. We would like to invite you to join the University of Illinois Alumni Association's online networking and mentorship platform. It's called Illini Link. You can visit allinilink.illinois.edu to set up your profile and connect with thousands of fellow Illini from around the world. It's an amazing platform and a way to really get that value out of your degree, right? You may also be interested in the University of Illinois Alumni Association's online book club. It is free to participate in. It offers you an opportunity to engage in meaningful discussions centered on literature, history, and professional development. For more information, visit pbc.guru/uillinois. That's Bravo Charlie Papa Golf Uniform Romeo Uniform /uillinois. Lastly, we will share details soon on the first webinar of the fall 2026 season, which will feature undergraduate admissions. So I hope you can join us for that one. But for now, let's turn to our guest this evening. It is my pleasure to introduce Charles L. Isbell Jr., the 11th Chancellor of the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, who will be celebrating his one-year anniversary with us next month. And I know that because he had to change his password at work today, because it makes you do that after about a year. Chancellor Isbell is a computationalist, a researcher, an educator, and a fierce advocate for the idea that higher education creates opportunity, drives progress, and broadens our understanding of the world. His research has focused on artificial intelligence and machine learning. He's had an emphasis on how those systems interact with humans in responsible and inclusive ways. He was previously the Dean of the College of Computing at Georgia Tech before he became the Provost and Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And of course, he joined Illinois last year as our Chancellor. I can personally attest he is a pretty darn good boss, and as we say in the Midwest, thank you for speaking with us tonight, Chancellor Isbell.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here, and it is always fun to talk to you, Robin.
Thank you. Well, before we get started with questions from the audience, we thought it'd be worthwhile to give you the floor for a few minutes to kind of take us through how you spent your first year and to tell us some of the exciting things you see on the horizon.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. I want to welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining me, for joining us. Looking forward to this conversation. Rob and I will get to talk, of course, but I'm hoping we'll get some interesting questions from you. So Robin's right. Because I had to change my password, we know it's been about a year. It will officially be 45 weeks tomorrow, and it has been a pretty interesting 45 weeks. So let me just say a little bit about what's happened during that time. I'll just touch on a few things here and there. So we started the year with our largest freshman class ever, which also included the most students we've ever had from the state of Illinois. We continued on a whole set of initiatives that predate me around bringing in more people, being inclusive, and creating and maintaining a welcoming environment. We've seen continuing success as we move through that year of our recent graduates. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but we have seen some record numbers and people being able to get jobs and have an impact both locally and across the country. We've had many awards across campus, lots of recognitions, including one really exciting one where the Cancer Center at Illinois was designated as a National Cancer Institute Basic Cancer Center, making it the first such designation anywhere in the country in almost 40 years. We saw growing visibility in Chicago around quantum computing, innovation, and the presence of Urbana-Champaign there. That is the place, of course, where we have the largest concentration of our alum. And so it makes perfect sense that we would be there and spend more time, bring more connections to our alum in Chicago, as well as, of course, across the rest of the state. We've been leading in the future of bioeconomy. We've been investing in the arts and creative experiences, and we are doing our best to create a culture throughout the state of Illinois where every single person can lead. There's a lot of common threads among that, but I think the ones that are really worth sort of pointing out is that these successes represent every aspect of our mission. There's education, there's research, there's economic development, and there is public engagement. And we are doing each of those things not just well, but at scale. And that this is the result of diligent work, not only of the many dedicated people across campus who believe in all aspects of that mission, but also the more than 500,000 alumni across the world who have taken what they have learned here and gone on to make an impact in their communities and with their families and friends. I believe very much that Illinois is uniquely positioned to lead all of these initiatives and many more because we do them not only in a mission-driven way, but again, and scale. And this is just a small slice of what we're talking about. And if you just think about all the things we've done in the last 159 years, it's kind of amazing to think about, given where we are now, what we might be able to do in the next 159 years. But before thinking about those next 159 years, it is worth taking a moment to reflect on the moment that we are in right now. And I think it's important for all of us as we have these conversations and we think about what we can do together to recognize that everything is not rosy. There have been a lot of challenges over the past year. Many of them, perhaps most of them, have been due to external pressures. We and everyone in higher ed have had to advocate for ourselves in a way that is unprecedented. I think fundamentally, although we are a public good, we are a university that impacts the world, not just those who sit on our campus and walk through, not just the people who work here or the people who are in our immediate community, but everybody. I think the evidence is pretty clear that people have stopped believing that higher education is that public good, that is instead a private good. And so a lot of what we have to do as a sector, but also as a university, is to work hard to restore the belief in the idea that higher education, particularly public higher education, is a public good. And that is a generational challenge. It is something that took us a long time to get here, and we're going to have to spend a long time and a lot of energy to change that story and to tell our story appropriately. To that end, in December, invited our university community to work together on a strategic plan, the first comprehensive strategic plan in about a decade. And so we gathered input from thousands of faculty and staff and students and alum. And we asked for input from community leaders locally in Champaign County, but also across the state. Many of you participated in this survey. We received well over 4,000 responses in a relatively short period of time. And so I thank all of you for your participation in that and also in the participation that you will be engaging in the future. The input's been honest, it's been thoughtful, it has been ambitious, and that is exactly what we want it to be. And we heard many, many, many things over and over again. And the one that really jumps out at me is that this is a university that is ready to lead and is ready to put in the work necessary to do that. So we're going to continue working in that space. We're going to continue trying to take the strategic plan and the things that we care about, our values, and use them to make decisions about how we are going to touch the entire world. So all of this, I think, is about not just having impact, but leading in conversations around what that impact is, not for the prestige, although the prestige is nice, it will come, but because this is who we really are. We want to serve our community, we want to serve the people who are out there, and we want to have a long impact that lasts far beyond the time that we are here. Which brings me to a question that I ask myself all the time. Every morning when I get up, I try to ask myself this simply: what can we do in this moment to be good ancestors? What can we do now? What decisions can we make working with each other so that those 40 years, 400 years from now, will look back on this moment and they'll say, it was a crazy time. Things weren't the way we might have wanted them to be. But these folks, because they cared, because they stuck to their values and they did the work that they knew they needed to do, created a world that is much better than it might have been otherwise if they had not made the decisions that they had. I think this is the obligation and the honor of being at a great university like Illinois. And that is not just to the people who are working here at a given moment, it is to everyone who is a part of this great legacy. And what everyone here is a part of is they are essential and fundamental to this institution's story and mission, and can continue in the things that they do and the way that they interact in the world and represent themselves and this university to make that kind of difference. It deeply matters that you are a part of these conversations. It deeply matters that you remain engaged, and it deeply matters that you will help us to be good ancestors. So I'll turn it back over to you, Robin. Thank you for the work that you do, and thank all of you for being here today.
That is a wonderful vision, and I know a lot of us have gotten very excited about the possibility of being part of it, so thank you for bringing that. And I know that concept is actually incorporated into the decor in your office, and I can see a little bit of it behind you. Can you walk folks who don't have the opportunity to be in your office today to tell them a little bit about how you've decorated it and why?
Oh, sure, I would love to. So you can see these pictures behind me. Why don't I get to them last? What you can't see on the other side of my screen here is two very large pictures. They're both graphs, which is a very computer science mathy thing to do. One of them is a graph about my research. It is a representation of about 1,000 or so people and the way that they in this online community interact with one another, how people touch, how they influence one another. It's a lot of machine learning. It's a lot of data science. It's a lot of linear algebra. But at bottom, it's about people. It's about people who are much alike and people who are different, but that they interact and they connect with one another, and that you can see it and you can use those connections to bring people even closer together. This is my present. It is the work that I do and that I continue to do in trying to understand and model human behavior. Over here, just off screen, you can't see it, is another graph, but is a graph of my academic ancestors. It starts with me at the bottom. I have two PhD advisors, so it has my two advisors. It has their advisors and their advisors and their advisors and their advisors. It goes back to about 1300, and it is a representation of the way knowledge gets passed through hundreds and hundreds, thousands and thousands of people and creates the present moment that we are in. Galileo is up there, Copernicus is up there. There's a few other people, if you're an engineer, Jacobi and Hess are up there. There are all of these people from all over the world across centuries who have worked together to create the moment that I now currently enjoy, that allows me to do the work that I've been able to do. So that is my present and that is my past. Behind me, what you see is a series of small portraits, and these are my students. These are the people I've worked with, and I have graduated over the more years than I care to count that I've been doing this, and they represent the future. And not just the future, they represent something that you cannot control, but you can influence. And so when I come into my office and I sit down here at this screen, what I see around me is my past, my present, and my future. And it reminds me that we are a part of a long story, that we are ancestors and we are descendants, and that we are a part of that story and that we affect that story. But that is what it is that we are trying to be.
And speaking of students, we do have quite a few of them at Illinois, as you mentioned in your opening remarks,
Mhm.
that we had another record-breaking freshman class, and it looks like we may break that record again, or at least have a very large record or a large class this fall. Can you talk a little bit about how enrollment fits into your vision for the future of this university?
Sure. Well, I mean, there's sort of two parts. One is it really helps to kind of know what is going on. So this August, we welcomed about 9,200 new students to campus, as you say, is the largest freshman class we've ever had. Our total enrollment is just shy of 61,000, which is also the highest it has ever been. That this year's freshman class included about 6,500, 6,600 students from the state of Illinois, which is the highest number that has ever been. So we are continuing to grow. We're continuing to grow around the world, yes. We're continuing to grow around the country, yes. But we're also continuing in our mission for the state of Illinois. It was up over 1,000 from the previous year, 2,000 from the year before that, and we expect that we will continue to see these numbers grow over time. It is also the case when we think about enrollment and we think about what we have seen, that these numbers are not an accident. They are a part of an effort to make certain that we are at scale reaching the people we need to reach and that we want to reach. This fall marked the first class where we welcomed in our expanded Illinois Commitment Program, which guarantees that Illinois students from low and moderate income families pay no tuition and no fees while they earn an Illinois degree. And so that helps us to bring in people and to create access at scale for people to have the opportunities and education that an Illinois degree can provide. But it's also the case that we are not doing that haphazardly. The goal of enrollment is towards a future. It is towards creating these opportunities and creating connections so that we see economic development, we see impact on individual lives that will feed back in to the greater good for society. So to that end, one of the things that we are also happy to see is not just record numbers of people coming in, but record numbers of people who are going out and are getting jobs. We saw 93% of our graduates from the previous year got a job within the first 6 months. That's up from 90% the previous year. A large number of them, about 70% overall, stayed within the state of Illinois. That includes a significant number of the students who came from out of state. About half of them remained in the state of Illinois in their first job. So we are seeing this impact on our local economy and this impact on the state of Illinois, and we're going to continue to do that. So enrollment is just like the work that we do is not just about prestige. When we think about enrollment and growing, we're doing it to create opportunity for the people who come here and for the people who are affected by the community, not just so that we can say we have one more student than we had the year before. So it's a part of a larger strategy. It's a part of a way of thinking about what impact really means.
Many of our alums joining today are from the Chicagoland area, and I know you have spent quite a bit of time there over the past 11 months. Can you tell us about some of the things happening in Chicago with the university and how Illinois alumni can connect with us through those things?
Well, I appreciate the question because there's always a sort of important thing to think about when you think about what the land grant flagship university is for. We're here for the entire state. We have to touch every single county. We want to touch everyone who is here. But we also want to touch a lot of its economic centers, which include Chicago. It is the most populous city in the state by far. We recognize that having a visible and meaningful presence there is important, not just for our alums and not just for the people who are there, but because that helps to support what we do and it helps to support us in supporting the state. So we have about 15,000 students from Cook County, which is nearly a quarter of the entire enrollment, and many of them are from the city of Chicago. The city of Chicago is not just a place where we look for students, it's a place where we look for economic and research activity. So it is a home for many of our research collaborations. We have IQMP, where we have invested in quantum and AI. We see that's a place where we partner with other universities, with high schools there. It's a place where we focus to make certain that we can build an engineering pipeline that will come from Chicago down through the corridor to Champaign, Urbana, and have the kind of impact there. But because you see 200 to 250,000 of our alum there, that means that it's a real opportunity for many of the people here who are listening to connect with each other and to find ways to connect back to the future students and to the work that we are doing. We are never going to focus just on a single part of the state, but we are going to focus on the people who are in the state. And we are going to always try to find ways of connecting with them and helping them to be a part of the larger campus that is Urbana-Champaign. So with that kind of connection, we think we can see more of our alum. We can see ways of creating companies that will stay in the state. We can see ways of bringing all that capital and energy and thought that is there and connect it with the work that we do here.
Great. And again, I want to remind folks, go ahead and put your questions in the Q&A section so that we can get to those in just a minute. One question I can guarantee you will be in there, whether it's been put in yet or not, is about our mascot. We have not had a mascot since 2007. Many students, faculty, and staff and alums have expressed varying opinions about the future of mascots at Illinois. Do you see a path forward that brings any clarity or resolution to this issue? I'm going to go ahead and ask it before anybody else has a chance to. So go ahead.
Sorry, Robin, you completely dropped from the call. I didn't hear anything you said. Sorry. Kidding. No, no. So you're right. The conversation surrounding the mascot long predates me, of course, but it is something that matters a lot to the people who are here and to our alum. In fact, as you know, when I was announced as the next chancellor, literally the very first question was about the mascot. Are we going to have another mascot? What are you going to do about it? And so that made it very clear to me that it was an issue that was dear to the hearts of many people. It has been almost 20 years since Chief Lanwick was retired, and I think that the decision at the time reflected important concerns about symbols and how they were experienced by many people in our community. If you're going to have a symbol for the university, anyone that we might consider in the future has to have a demonstrated ability to bring together the entire Illinois community in celebrating our student athletes, our mission, and the spirit of our university. And that is a very high bar. I think that to date, the university has not yet identified a mascot or a concept that clearly meets that standard. And so my approach to that is the approach that I've tried to take this entire year. I want to listen carefully. I want to engage broadly before we move forward towards any kind of decision on something that is going to have such an impact that matters so much to so many people, including people who are not on campus but have experienced things over the decade. There are many people on both sides of this issue who believe very strongly in the questions around here. And I'm hoping that we will be able to have those conversations and to allow organically for us to reach to a place where everyone can feel that they see something that reflects on the values of the universities and reflects on themselves and their experiences. So we will keep having those conversations, and I will keep listening.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So let's go ahead and jump right into questions from the audience now. What is your thinking on the enrollment cliff at many institutions and the university's increase enrollment? And can you just explain what an enrollment cliff is for those who don't know?
Thank you, Ron. That's a great thing to do. Sometimes we forget that not everyone knows the jargon that we spend all our time thinking about. So the enrollment cliff is this sort of basic idea that the number of college-age students, of people graduating from high school, which grew after the baby boom and went on for many years, is about to do this pretty significant cliff. There are reasons for this. These reasons go back. There are many reasons for how we got here. It's a worldwide phenomenon, not just something that is happening in the United States, and it is happening more in some places here than others. What that means is there just aren't going to be as many students going to college, even if the percentage of students graduating from high school want to go to college. We're seeing an impact on those students in the state of Illinois and across the Midwest. So if everything else remains equal, what you would expect is with the enrollment cliff is that we will see fewer and fewer and fewer students. And I think if you think through that, you can see all kinds of implications for the economy and implications certainly for higher ed. So given that, and given that we have reached the enrollment cliff, you might ask, well, then how is it that we're managing to grow year after year after year? And the answer is that our brand is growing. People recognize the value of an Illinois degree, and they recognize what they get out of being in a place like this and seeing people from all over the world on this campus. We will, I think, continue to be able to grow our enrollment at both the undergraduate and the graduate level. And even if it is difficult to do that as the population shrinks over the next decade or so, I think the value of this university and if is such that we will not only see students coming in for year one of their academic journey, but we will see ways in which our alum will want to come back to get not just an advanced degree, but to get a certificate, have access to individual courses that might help them to retool or to reskill or to switch jobs. So even if we think about the college age student as 18 to 22, which isn't even really true anymore, but even if we thought about it that way, what I expect to see on this campus is that we will not have 61,000 students. We will have 100,000, 150,000 students, because there will be people who long ago graduated, but have easy, affordable access to continuing education as they move through their lives and through their careers. And through that, we will not have to worry about the enrollment cliff. Instead, what we will be able to do is pivot towards a world where we are constantly educating and supporting the people who've gone through this campus and want to continue to grow.
I know this is going to be a surprise to you, but we've received a couple of questions about artificial intelligence.
Oh, I've
So
heard of
yeah,
that.
I hope you can handle them. What are your concerns about how AI could impact job opportunities for Illinois graduates?
So it's a real question. I've got two answers for you. I got good news and bad news. Do you want to hear the good news or the bad news first?
Let's go bad news first, and then we'll end with.
Okay. So the bad news is it is going to change things. It is the case that people expect, particularly at the entry level, that people have a lot more facility with AI. Companies are trying to think about what they could be getting out of what they could be getting instead out of people coming in. They're really thinking about productivity and ways of being more efficient. And so that puts a lot of pressure on us, and it puts a lot of pressure on new people going into the workforce to be able to have those skills. And it's a real concern because people are seeing a kind of lowering, particularly in the tech sector, but all across what that could mean. Because if you can have a machine that's going to do a lot of this work for us, then maybe we don't need as many people. That's the fear. That fear is overblown. And I think the reason that fear is overblown is because AI is a tool like any other. It is just, I'm going to say just, it is just computing. It is just more of the things that we have been dealing with around automation, kind of intellectual work over the last 30 or 40 years. It will no more make it impossible for people to do work, even coming in at entry level, than the World Wide Web did, than computers did, than Google did all of the other things that came and gave access to information to more people quickly. So I think the good news is that we are able to educate and support students, including those who need to return after decades in the workforce, on what those tools are good for, how they work, and why they work, so that people can use it to magnify what they do. This is not the first time that technology has come in and appeared to eliminate a series of jobs. But almost always it is the case that afterwards, the number of new kinds of jobs and what you're able to do will in fact increase. And I think that we will see that here. The person who is in trouble is not the person who's going to lose their job because of AI. It's the person who does not know how to use AI to do their job. And so it is on us to educate and to support people so that they can use these tools so that they can be more productive and they can do interesting things and they can have long, long, productive, and happy careers.
I know we have a half hour to go, but if you listen to nothing else he said, that's the really important thing. Again, not going to lose your job to AI. You're going to lose your job to somebody who knows how to use it, and you don't. So we really have a lot of reasons for folks to upskill and reskill with us too. Moving on, Illinois is renowned for the research we do on campus across all the units. What areas are you hoping will excel during your time at Illinois?
uh, of research and units and impact and that way? Well, all of them, of course. But I think so. Here, I'm going to cheat and answer your question. So I'm not going to pick my favorite sub area, my favorite discipline. What I'm going to point out is that the future of all the work that we do, certainly the research that we do, the scholarship that we do, is in the intersections between disciplines. It is a place where the historian, which my son is going to be when he joins us in the fall, is going to be at the intersection of data science. It's going to be at a place where you know how to use technology and tools to help you to find the answer to a question that otherwise would have taken you weeks or months or even years to do. So what we're going to see in both research and education and in the ways that we have impact is going to be at the way that these things interact with one another. And so I think that if we do that right, if we build infrastructure for our faculty and for our students that allow them to do all of these things, then you're going to see growth in every single area. And I want to point out that it doesn't go one way. So it's not the case that history is going to be saved by computer science, or that the arts will do better because they've got a computer with a big screen in front of them. It's going to work the other way as well. That the people who are thinking about technology will benefit from the ways of thinking and the perspectives that come from people who have had different kinds of experiences and think about the world in a very different way, whether they're sociologists or they come from the humanities or they come from the arts. This is a thing where everybody can be better and can do more because we are more integrated and we are more interdisciplinary. Everybody knows I'm a computer scientist. Not everybody knows that I minored in both Spanish and history. I look back at that. I'm in cognitive science. I look back at that and I know that it is those broader set of experiences, perspectives, and ways of thinking that helped me to see problems in a way different from people who did not want to embrace the full breadth of what you can have in an education. And I think that that is something that we owe all of our future students, the opportunity and ability to do that, and our faculty in supporting them to be able to do that.
Absolutely. Can you talk a little bit about how the university is reaffirming its commitment to DEI and that it remains accessible to everyone?
Well, so the key question there is accessibility. The important thing about an education, the important thing about our land grant mission, like who we are, our outreach, is that we want to be able to do things at scale. And the only way to do things at scale is to bring as many people as possible into the fold, give them the opportunity to be able to experience what those of us who have done this have been lucky enough to experience. And I want to point out that's the same answer as I gave to the question before. Different perspectives matter, different experiences matter. It is always the case that you end up in a better world and with better outcomes if you have people with different experiences and different perspectives coming together to work on problems. We owe it not just to them, we owe it to ourselves to make certain that people who come from a variety of backgrounds, who've had a variety of experiences, are able to be in the same room and to work together and to learn together. The world is only going to be more cosmopolitan. The world is only going to involve more people around the world and people with different experiences. And you cannot thrive in that world unless you feel comfortable in interacting with those people and where they come from. I do want to say that although I think that's true, and we are continuing to invest in that, we're continuing to invest in making certain that we're reaching people everywhere. I don't want to say that, I don't want to give the impression that it's easy. And the part that isn't easy, or the part that is hard, is not getting the people here. It's not finding those people. I don't believe that at all. I think that there's talent everywhere. And if you give people the opportunity and you give them access, you will find those people. They will find ways to thrive. What's difficult about it is that when we are in a room with people who've had completely different experiences, whether they are ideological and political, or whether they're simply they grew up in an 8,000 square foot house or 1,000 square foot house. They had cars, they had people, or they didn't. You can have difficulty because the assumptions of the way you have moved through the world, your belief about how things are and what is easy and what is difficult, is challenged by others. That challenge can feel difficult. It can feel uncomfortable. But if you get through 4 years of an undergraduate education without ever feeling uncomfortable, then either you did something wrong or we failed you. And so I think that a university like this, a large part of its mission in reaching out and bringing as many people in as possible is to create a space where people can have those uncomfortable conversations and experiences, but become better and stronger because of them. And when they go out into the rest of the world, know how to navigate through them. So we are investing in all of that from soup to nuts. What does it mean to make certain that you have access available to people of all ages, of all backgrounds, of all ways of thinking, and bring them in here? How do we make certain they thrive, and how do we give them the experiences and the tools so that when they leave this place, before they come back, when they leave this place, they're able to navigate through this ever-changing world with people who come from very different places? And that, to me, is the essence of diversity. That, to me, is the essence of inclusion, and that, to me, is the essence of equity.
Well said. Thank you. Okay. How has the university prepared to support the academic, student services, and housing needs for large incoming classes? And in what ways can alumni contribute to ensuring students thrive?
That is the question, right? We could bring in another 20% more students, but the physics get in the way. We've got to have buildings for them. We have to have people who are going to support them. We have to have dorms. We have to have all kinds of services. We have to have ways for them. Thriving requires that they have this kind of space and these kind of opportunities, more staff, more faculty, more space, more everything. So we have to be very thoughtful in how we bring more and more people in. We have to take advantage of the technology that is out in the world so that we can have more people be a part of these experiences without necessarily having to be physically present every minute of the day. Not because we don't want them to have the experience or to be able to have the kind of education that many of us enjoyed, but because that is a way in which more and more people can participate. And truthfully, the way that they participate with one another, this generation anyway, participates with one another in the real world. As we grow, we have to figure out ways to be very thoughtful and creative about how we create space for people, and we allow people to be more and more productive in the way that they support students. I use the word support and I use students on purpose because fundamentally a university is a place of great research, is a place of education, but is a service institution. It is there to provide help and support and service to its constituencies, which include the students as well as the people in the surrounding area and across the state and alum. So we are going to continue to invest in student support. We're going to continue to invest with our friends in the state and real estate developers around to build more and more housing. And we are going to find ways to be more effective in the way that we connect with those students and meet their needs. This is also not trivial and easy. It does mean that we can't jump to 20% next year. It means we have to move slowly towards it and start preparing for that future. And that I think we kind of know how to do. We've been doing that for at least a little while. And there have been hiccups here and there, but I think that we understand sort of how to grow on that end. One of the ways in which we're going to do that support, though, comes to the second half of the question that you asked me, which is what can alum do? Alum can do many things. Alum, particularly in the state of Illinois, can talk to their representatives, to their senators, and ask them to make certain that this university isn't just funded in the ways that we tend to think about it, but that there is support for ways of building housing that's affordable for students, building dorms more quickly, and making it easier for us to do that. That is not a small thing. It is actually a very important thing, as we are a state university and we have to go through these kinds of processes. But also they can provide that support by connecting back with the university, not to the chancellor or to the vice chancellor and chief of staff, although please do that, but also to support the students, to provide their own experiences in starting a business, or what they wish they had done differently for their first job, or what does it mean to move through and to try to get yourself reskilled and reeducated over the span of a decade or two. The alumni are an incredibly powerful network. You can help each other and you can help the alumni who are in the school right now. I won't go into details on this, but I was once a part of a program where we grew a particular program from 0 students to 12,000 students in the span of about 4 or 5 years. My only fear with that program is that we were not going to be able to support it. We were not going to be able to have enough TAs. We were not going to be able to give the students who were going through this program the support that they needed. By the time that program had reached its 10th year, over 50% of all the TAs, all of the support for the students, were graduates of the program. These were people who were living on the other side of the country, who had a mortgage, 2 kids, a full-time job, but they were finding ways to give back because it helped the people who were following them. They were being good ancestors, but also it gave them opportunities to continue to learn. It gave them opportunities to be a part of an environment where they could make certain that they kept up with what the latest things were, and they would be better able to explain things, better able to present, better able to do the things that were going to help them in their professional careers. And so there's lots of creative ways that we can work with the alum to be able to give back to the university and to support the students that involve creative uses of time. It involves ideas, it involves support, and it involves advocacy. And so even if you're thinking particularly about the students who are here and how you're going to help to support them as they grow, there are all of these ways that can be done that can align with how you want to participate and give.
Wonderful. And we talked a little bit about Chicago and how many students we have from Chicago.
Mhm.
What is the university doing to extend access to prospective students throughout all parts of the state, in addition to the urban areas?
Right, that's really important. I mean, one of the things that's interesting about Illinois is that about a third of the population lives in the center of Chicago, a third right outside in the rest of Chicagoland, and then a third through the rest of the state. That's a lot of people distributed in a very large area, and it is incumbent on us to connect with everyone there. So we, as the land grant, have extension, which in the extension organization has an office in every single county. We participate and provide education and support through the Extension Office in every single county in the state. We continue to take that seriously and central to the part of who we are. We leverage our networks and our ability to touch every part of the state to try to recruit and support prospective students. I will say we can do a much better job of that. I will say that we could invest more time and strategic thought into thinking about the best way to reach those potential students, to support them and help them to see that, in fact, this is a place that not only could they be, but a place where they might want to be because it is a place that will support them and help them to thrive. If you think about it in the very specific case of students and potential students, what you want is you want an investment in um, understanding what it means to reach students and to support them and bring them here. And you want someone who's accountable to that, someone who is a professional of that, someone who thinks about that, and an office to support them. So along those lines, we announced, oh, I don't know, maybe about a month ago, that we will be creating and searching for a vice provost for strategic enrollment management. We're going to do a nationwide search to bring someone into the university who has not only the experience, but the passion of understanding how to bring in people from everywhere into a university like this, knows how to reach them, knows what their issues are, and where their parents might struggle, and can build financial aid, can build mechanisms and supports and programs that will bring the students here to make certain that they not only see this place, but once they get here, they will thrive. So that is a thing that we have decided to do because we believe it is important, and it's certainly important in our mission in reaching all the students, potential students, and their parents across the state.
Thank you. We know it's been a difficult time for higher ed over the past year or two. How are you handling attacks on public education given the current political climate?
So another good news and bad news situation. So it is true. In fact, it is an understatement to say that um, public higher education in general is under attack. But I think it's worth realizing that that attack is not new. That is not a thing that happened a January or so ago. That is a conversation that has been going on for at least 40 years, at least as long as I've been paying attention. And I think it comes back to this thing that I said at the beginning. We used to think about higher education as a public good. Sometime in the 80s or around there, we started yielding to the idea that it's a private good and that the only people who benefit from it are the people who go through that campus, who get that degree, or who have a job there. And so we have to start talking about who we are and what we are as a public good. That the benefit of a higher education, the benefit of a higher education institution is not just to the people on the campus, but to everyone, including people who will never, ever come anywhere near it. But that's not just a story about what is true or what we want to be true. It is about making certain that people know that it is true by being true. So we have to dedicate ourselves to telling our story better, yes, but we also have to dedicate ourselves to actually having a good story to tell. And I know that we do. Certainly, this university does. But we have to make certain that we keep evermost in mind that we serve the world. We serve the people, and they need to see that and see how investing in us allows us to invest in them and to make their world better, whether or not they ever show up on campus. So we are doing that by doubling down on that idea, but we're also doing that by working with other universities in the Big Ten and the AAU, which is the Association of Top Tier Research Universities, and with all of our colleagues across the country to understand how we can work together and tell our story better. As we are attacked directly, we always follow the law, but we also work with the law to make certain that we are supporting and defending the things that we believe and align with our values that we have to do to be effective universities. I will also say we are in a state where both the executive branch and the legislature believes in higher education, supports us and the entire higher education ecosystem in the state. And that makes it a lot easier to take risks. It makes it a lot easier for us to try to lead the conversation in what higher education needs to be. Not everybody in every university in every state is as lucky as we are. And I take that as an opportunity, but also as an obligation. So we are going to continue to push on that, and we will continue to make certain that we tell a better story, and that the story that we have to tell is also better.
And can you talk a little bit about how the university is handling external pressures in the area of research funding?
Yes, so that was a really scary thing that was happening to everybody, not just to us. We continue to try to support people as they are moving and transitioning from one kind of research to a different kind of research. This is something that actually universities do all the time, but normally, you have 10 years to do it. You don't have to do it in 10 months. So that sort of strained the system. We are constantly seeking other ways of supporting broad basic research in a variety of areas. We are working with companies and with industry to do that, and we are continuing to advocate for what we think is necessary to keep the research enterprise going through legal means and through advocacy at both the state and the federal government. I don't want to get too in the weeds here, but a lot of the things that seem to be threatening 10, 15 months ago are not quite coming to pass. We have, through our own efforts and through the efforts of our colleagues across the country, been able to tell a story to make it easier for people to understand what indirect cost recovery is, what it means to actually support the university. And we're actually seeing support for that, bipartisan support for that in the Congress, in the Senate. So we are continuing to advocate and try to show the value of what we do, and we are finding other ways to support the important work that we do and going beyond simply the return on investment that you get in 6 months and talking about the long-term impact of what we're doing. I mean, this is the university that invented the LED. This is the university with the MRI. This is the university that created the World Wide Web, for better or worse. This is a university that does things that have impact decades and decades out, and being able to show that and tell that story makes it easier for people to invest in us.
Just to let you know, we've got less than a fourth of our hour left.
I'll
So,
talk faster. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, you're doing great. You're doing great. But we do want to get to athletics, and we've gotten quite a few questions about that. And I know you have enjoyed supporting the Illini, whether it's women's basketball, tennis, golf, whatever. I know you've gotten the pleasure of winning a bowl game and going to the Final Four. So all good there. What do you think about what we can do now to support student athletes in this crazy new world of NIL?
Well, one of the things that we can do at least two things. Besides all the stuff that we always do and we would do for any student, we can educate them. We can help them to see the world that they're in and the world that they're going to be in, and make certain that they are prepared to navigate through this world. I mean, that's actually really important. That's a part of what we do. That's why they're students and athletes, not just athletes. They're student athletes. We have to always remember that, and we always have to provide support for them and recognize that their lives are difficult. I mean, everyone doesn't have a chance to do this, but I've had a chance to follow a team around, even years ago when I was a young faculty member, go on the road with them and actually see the enormous amount of work that they have to do in order to maintain their grades, excel in athletics, and have the kind of impact that you want to have at a great place like this one. We have to support the students directly and make certain that they understand the world they're in. The second thing we have to do is we have to advocate for sanity in athletics, D1, D2, D3, true collegiate athletics. We have to understand what it is that's going to create an environment that allows all of us to do the right thing, that supports those students and their fans, all the things that make that work. And that requires asking difficult questions, answering those questions, and working with our colleagues in the Big Ten, across the NCAA, and making certain that we are supporting those students. We must stay consistent with our values. Those values are the student first. Those values are excellence in everything that we do, and in helping everyone to achieve what we know that they can if they're given the opportunity to do so. And we're just going to have to keep doing that. And we will get there because we have no other choice. If we do not do that, then athletics, as we know it and as we all love it, will reach a point of, well, a place where we just don't want it to be. So I take it as something that we have to do, and we have to take just as seriously as we take everything else that we do, because it is important and it impacts our students and our alum and everyone around us.
It's a good time to have Josh Whitman as your athletic director.
Oh my God. By the way, can I just say, Josh is awesome. When I talk about things like leadership and strategic thinking, everyone doesn't know who the athletic director is. They're often invisible at different places. And when you see them, you think of them as hopping around from place to place. Josh Whitman is a treasure. He thinks very carefully. He is deeply strategic. He is a leader. He's testified before Congress. He is a representative in the NCAA. He spends his time thinking about the student and thinking about excellence at the highest level and thinking about the university and how athletics is a part of the university, not separate from it. And I could not be happier with an athletic director than I am with Josh.
Great. Okay, this is a good one. What does a typical workday look like for you? And then I'll give you a follow-up after that.
I Have I had a typical work day? Robin, you see my
You
calendar.
have not.
Idea. Every
I
day is
just
a
want to
little
hear
bit
your
different.
answer to this one.
I mean, I don't know, man. Every day is a little bit different from every other day. Um, some days, like today, I'm in meetings all day, making being asked questions, making decisions, trying to think in the long term. A day like today, we actually spent 5 hours, just a little, actually more like 4 or 5 hours, no, 5 hours, driving around the city of Champaign and learning about its the county, Champaign County, and learning about its history, learning about the people who've been here, all of the interesting things that have happened, seeing the sites, understanding the context of where we're in. I get to do things like that. I spent some time doing that sort of thing last week as well. And every once in a while, I just really get to understand my new home, the city that we're in, and the role that the university has had in it, both for good and for ill, in the ways that we can be better. Sometimes I am traveling all over the world. Next week, I will be 13 time zones away, meeting with our partners around the world to build stronger connections to support the work that we do here in Illinois. Some days I get to go to the Final Four. It's just every day is different, but all of them are kind of in service of thinking about long term what is best for the university. And it is a great job, and I highly recommend it.
And is it a better day when you get bacon, or is it a better day when you get to meet with students?
It's a better day when students bring me bacon.
Fair enough. Oh my. Okay, let's see here. Um, uh, sorry, I've lost my place here. Uh, you mentioned earlier about working together with other institutions to share the value of higher education. How does the university partner with peer institutions?
Well, we do it in a lot of ways. And by the way, we've always done this sort of thing. What's new in the last couple of years is doing it particularly around this question of the fundamental value of higher education. The AAU, which I mentioned earlier, is a storied institution, a collection of, and right now, 69 universities in the United States and two in Canada that think about research and the impact of research. They have defended in court attacks on fundamental parts of higher education. That is new. It's the first time they've ever done that in their entire history. We work with the Big Ten. I know at least some of you watch football games and other Big Ten games. Pay attention to the commercials. The commercials there are a joint effort by people across the Big Ten, led, by the way, by Robin and other people in our strategic comms, or Illinois is leading again, to tell the story of what we do and to tell the story of what public higher education does, or higher education does more generally. So we get together a lot and we talk about our shared concerns and our shared values, and we work together on strategies to tell our story better and to do things to have the kind of impact you want. So I talk to them all the time. They talk to me all the time, not just in the Big Ten, but lots of our peers across the country. And we are always talking about what we can do to better show our value and how we can help each other to do the things that's consistent across all of our missions.
It seems like these days it would be impossible for one university to kind of solve all the world's problems. Talk a little
Yes.
bit about how the sort of those big projects and how we have to partner with other places for those.
Oh, absolutely. So just as it's impossible for any discipline to solve the big problems that touches all, and so you need to work across disciplines in a university on a variety of views and a variety of perspectives. It is increasingly difficult to solve those really big problems just from any given university, any given institution, which is why we partner with so many. I mentioned IQMP earlier, which is the Quantum and Microelectronics Park, situated on the south side of Chicago. That is a partnership with Northwestern. That is a partnership with the University of Chicago. We do all kinds of work with the University of Illinois, Chicago. We do work with universities across the state, universities across the country. We have in the center at hubs across the Midwest to do work that is going to require resources, going to require facilities, are going to require people from a variety of backgrounds and across a large number of institutions. Every day that goes by, we are a part of, and it's clearer that we are a part of a community. And what we want to do is we want to lead the conversations in those communities so that we can have the kind of impact that we want to have as a university. And to have the kind of impact we want to have as a university, we have to partner with lots and lots of others. And the good news is it's fun. And it's not just that it's fun and that it's impactful, but it takes nothing from what we do. When we work with other universities, whether it's on workforce development, something we're working on right now, whether it's on rural health, whether it's on trying to understand the next stage of the physics behind quantum computing, it reflects well on us. It gives us the ability to do great things, even with, and in fact, because we are working with other universities. There is nothing to fear about working with our partners across the country and across the state to do great things. It redounds to the benefit of everyone, and it's fundamentally what it means to be a public good.
Excellent, thank you. You mentioned extension offices earlier.
Mhm.
Uh, Sometimes there's a perception that the county extension offices are just associated with agriculture. What do you think we can do to show people that extension is much broader than that?
Extension is much broader than that. I mean, we have a land grant mission. We It was in many ways driven at the time that it was the land grants were founded as land grants towards agriculture because that was the world that we were in then. It continues to be an important part of what extension does, certainly in a state like Illinois. But it does so much more than that. It is about education. It is about connecting to the community. It is one of the ways in which we get to touch everyone in the state, and they get to touch us by communicating back to us what they need. I think we should be thinking about a world where the way in which we educate and touch people around the future of AI, what it's going to mean for what they do, is through and in partnership with our extension offices. What we have to do to show them that is we have to tell them, and then we have to actually show them. We have to tell them so that they know, and we have to show them by connecting them with the other things that we were able to do. I grew up in a university without the land grant mission. I went to grad school in a place without the land grant mission, and I have to tell you that one of the things that I love the most about a place like Illinois is that it has the land grant mission. It is amazing to be at a place that is this broad and has built into its very DNA and what it does the value and the goal of touching everyone in the state, that being there, not by the way to just tell people what to do, but to learn and to be a part of all of those communities. So Extension does all of that for us. We continue to invest in it. Very proud of ACES, where Extension is housed, but also just the Extension offices and that organization as well. They do amazing things, and I'm going to continue to work with them in doing those things.
So we have a very observant audience, and several people noted that they think you have a lightsaber on your desk. Is
I
that
do have a
correct?
lightsaber on my desk.
Would you like to tell them a little bit about it?
It's a lightsaber. It's for Star Wars. It was a gift from one of my students um, because I am a big fan of science fiction, Star Trek, Star Wars, and just the whole group of people. And when I left a previous institution, one of my students said, "I want you to have this because um, I think that it represents you and the things that you care about, but it also represents a Jedi Master who is going to mentor and support other people." So I take it very seriously, and it has a special place on my desk. And for those of you who are wondering, it is purple because Mace
And
Windu is the
yes,
coolest of the Jedi.
of course. And it took me 11 months to learn this one from you, but last week, I think it was, you explained the correct order in which to watch the Star Wars movies. Can you walk through that one for me?
Yes. Okay. So for those of you who care about this, and for those of you who don't, you should care about it. There are the Star Wars movies. There is a correct way to watching them, and that correct way is known as the machete order. So, quickly, because I know we're running out of time, the original Star Wars is known as Star Wars 4. Empire Strikes Back is 5, Return of the Jedi is 6. The correct viewing order is 4, because it's the first one. 5, which ends in a big cliffhanger. Where there's a lot of questions about whether Luke will ever go to the dark side. And instead of going directly to 6, you should jump back to 2 and then to 3, where you get to see Anakin Skywalker become Darth Vader and understand why it is Luke Skywalker is walking down exactly the same path as his, spoilers, father. And then when you come back to 6, you can see the stakes and you can understand how it could possibly end up the wrong way. So 4, 5, 2, 3, 6. And we don't talk about 1.
Got it. Very
There
good.
you
Thank you. And that is all the time we have. Thank you so much, Chancellor Isbell, for taking the time to offer us an update and engage with our alums. We do really appreciate that. I know you are swamped. Um, and you'll probably head to some other work thing after this. I do want to thank the UIAA for hosting the conversation, especially our fearless leader, David Bambry, and his colleagues, Casey and Ellen. Thanks to all of you who joined us this evening. The captioned video of tonight's event will be archived on the web in the coming days. I hope you'll share the link with anyone who could not join us this evening. I also want to thank our colleagues at The Strange Road, especially our amazing producer, Mikey, for providing production assistance, and to the team at Stratcom, Allison, Katie, and Pat for helping us behind the scenes. Chancellor Isbell and I are so proud to be part of this amazing university community, and we always enjoy spending time with you. Chancellor Isbell, I'm going to give you the last thing to say, because I'm going to say ILL.
I and I.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.